coordinator, a field training officer, a detective, patrol sergeant, detective sergeant, administrative sergeant, and I'm now the special services chief. So I'm just very fortunate to have a lot of experiences with the sheriff's office, and thank you for having me.
Matt McKnight, fourth generation Lewis County resident. I live currently out in Morton, so it's been a bit of a drive to go all the way to Morton and back here, but that's okay. It was a beautiful drive to get out here. Thank you for having us all here. Really appreciate that. The opportunity to talk to each geographical area is important because you all have different thought processes and different ideas and different geographical challenges. So I grew up in Winlock, married my wife. She's my high school sweetheart. We started dating the senior year of high school. We have 3 wonderful children. We started having kids shortly after we got married. We got married right after high school. So we have 3 children. My oldest is 21. My youngest is 18. So we are done being parents. At least my wife laughs every time. I don't know why she laughs. I thought we were done. They're 18. They're out of the house. My daughter is getting married this summer. I can't really complain because after all, I got married when I was her age, so she's got a really good guy. He's really good for her. I'm really proud of them. We spent a lot of time out in East Lewis County, because that's where we're from, volunteering with the wrestling clubs and our theater program. I'm active in my church youth group. I'm part of our church leadership team. Career-wise, I've spent 6.5 years at the Sheriff's Office before I left in 2013 to go over to the Chehalis Police Department. After I got to Chehalis, I was a defensive tactics instructor. I've been an FTO, or FTO coordinator. I've been in charge of our defensive tactics program, a defensive tactics instructor. Eventually got promoted to sergeant. From there, I was promoted to deputy chief. As the deputy chief, I deal with all of our employment issues, so hiring, firing, background investigations, employment issues, budgetary stuff, dealing with our $4.1 million budget, and then it's great. It's like coaching, and I really enjoy coaching, so it helps align with that really well. And that's a little bit about who I am.
I thought we were just going to say our names, but they move back home. They never just go away. So I can speak for that. My name is Tracy Murphy. Up until 2 weeks ago, I worked for the city of Centralia, and I've been there since I was 16 years old. My last assignment was as the DEA task force supervisor and the supervisor of JNet. It was a very good career. And I'm in the process right now with the union of doing a grievance for the wrongful termination. So I am a fighter. I believe in integrity, always doing what's right, regardless of the cost to yourself and regardless of who's watching. I don't think that that's just a word. I think it's an action. I believe in the God of the Bible, and I believe more in the God of the Bible since going through what I've been going through. He is real, and I believe in Jesus Christ and what he did for me. I'm a believer in the Constitution and rule of law, and I think that applies equally to everyone, regardless of who you are. I plan on staying here in Lewis County. My family lives here. I was born and raised here. We go to church here. And this is where I plan to retire when I finally am done with law enforcement. My wife, Sherry, is probably, I know that it's overused, that your wife is the better half, but I would have to say that she is my better half. We have 5 children. The youngest is a senior in high school, and the next 2, even though they're out of high school, they live at home with us, so they will come back. But it's a pleasure and a joy. I always tell my girls that, now the older boys, they're twins, and when you go off, you need to learn to be men. But the girls, they can stay at home. I will take care of them until I find the right person that I'm willing to turn them over to. So I never want them just to run off to anyone. So I thank you guys for having me out here. I hope you have a lot of good questions, and thank you.
Last but not least, I'm Danny Reardon. I'm currently with the Sheriff's Office. I've been here since 2002. Before that, I started in Elma, started in 1999. Did a few years there. Before that, I was a firefighter EMT for Little Rock Fire Rescue. That's kind of what started me into my civil service and taking care of the people, and I kind of carried that through my job. I got hired by Sheriff McCroskey, and then he retired, and then I worked for Sheriff Mansfield. During that time period, I've had a lot of good things and some bad things, but more good than bad. I became a detective in, I think, 2008, and worked in the major crimes until the fall of 2014, and a case broke me, and I had to step away from the detectives. Kind of went into narcotics for a little while, and then I became a sergeant for the office. I was a patrol sergeant for approximately 6 months, and then I became the Sheriff's Enforcement Team sergeant. We worked hand in hand with JNet. We were kind of the uniform portion of JNet. So if they were running a op, we would be the ones that do stops the cars and things like that. So we worked well with each other. During that time frame, I became an EVOC instructor. I mean, there's a litany of things. Active threat instructor. It's just a lot of stuff. Pretty much anything that I could do to make our citizens safer, I did. I was on the SWAT team. We were TLs, ATLs, and just continued trying to do what we could do during that time period. The reason why I'm running for sheriff is just because the last few years has really broke me as a deputy sheriff. We haven't been able to have our voices put out there, and so I'm running to make sure that our people are taken care of at the office, and then they also take care of you guys, because that's truly what it's all about. I've been with the Guild since the inception, 2007, and through that time period, I've been everything, and the Guild votes, the people vote for that position. And for the last 6 years, I believe, I've been the Guild president, so I've handled contracts and things like that. But more importantly, I've taken care of the deputies when they need somebody in between admin and us. Because unfortunately, sometimes admin has a different view of what we should be doing out there. So again, I just threw my hat in because I wanted to make a difference for this community. I'm not in Boistfort on my day shift because I do the SMS program out here. And on the night shift, I'm up in the East End. So currently, if you're just trying to figure out why I just said that I'm deputy, because I did get in some trouble back in 2018. I dealt with a situation where I had an affair, and I got put back down to the road. I struggled, but I figured out what I needed to do to fix myself and make myself better. And again, the ugliness of my indiscretion compared to what I want to do is why I'm here fighting for it. I'm not giving up on Lewis County or the Sheriff's Office. So that's me. Can't even.
Thank you, gentlemen. Josiah, can I have your son come up and do me a favor? There's a bowl of numbers. Can you take that up there and have them pick a number out of the bowl? Okay? Just have them pick a number. While they're doing that, a little bit of rules here. While they're speaking, try not to interrupt them, okay? We'll have a chance at the end to be able to ask questions of the candidate. So who got number one?
I win.
All right. And number two?
I did.
And number three?
Number 3.
Take a guess.
5.
Okay. For the questions, I forgot we named tags up front. See, I'm not very good at this, guys.
Yeah, I think you're doing great.
We appreciate it.
I appreciate hearing
Hey, let's wait till he looks the names up first, make sure you got it right.
I think I did double
I'm just looking
double
at
check.
how everything's organized. Did you guys look at the chairs? Like, they are in order.
My OCD is perfect, even though.
So,
Okay, so we'll start off with number one.
Oh, what do you know?
And can everybody hear me? I don't need to use a speaker. Can everybody hear them?
Yes.
So I'd rather not use a microphone. So good. Question number one. If elected sheriff, what changes, if any, would you make to the local patrols?
All right, local patrols. So patrol is really the backbone of any police department, any sheriff's department, any law enforcement entity. Patrol is what you see out there. Patrol is what is out and about and keeps us safe. Right now, there's some tweaks that I think need to be made to the sheriff's office patrol. They have a sheriff's enforcement team right now that I believe needs to be dissolved, not completely gotten rid of as in purpose, but they need to be dissolved, and they need to be placed back on patrol, and they need to have somebody from that group go into the JNET so that we can better utilize the resources there. That'll provide us with more patrol officers, more patrol folks to be going around and doing patrol work. We need to look at different types of scheduling, working with the guild to see if maybe a different schedule can work. We did it in Chehalis. We had a problem, a unique problem, where we had so many residents or so many people in Chehalis during the day, but very few at night. So we worked our schedule in a way that it added additional support for the evening or for the daytime and those high call volume, high liability calls, and not as many people during the night when we didn't need them. We can look at options like that for the county. We need to find a way to better serve the people with the resources we have. We can still take some people out of the sheriff's enforcement team, but that's not going to be enough. We have to find a way to better utilize those resources. Unfortunately, one of the problems with a lot of the grant programs is they ask so much from the department. The grant that was put out by the governor recently requires us to modify and adopt policy to what the governor wants and not necessarily what's best for our community. We have to adopt some of the DEI policies. We have to adopt the state model use of force policy. And those policies aren't necessarily what's best for our community. If we don't do that, we can't apply for that grant. And that grant is limited. So grant funding is really, really challenging. It's really difficult to get. And if you do get it, you may be faced in a couple years of telling people, hey, sorry, the grant didn't come through. You're out of a job. You got to go find something else to do. And that's not right to do to our people or to the community. So that's how I would look at changing some of the patrol functions within the sheriff's office as it stands currently.
Number two, if elected sheriff, what changes, if any, would you make to the local patrols?
Well, right now we have 4 to 5 deputies on patrol at any given time. Again, our schedule is really, it's a good schedule for our deputies. Time-wise though, we can stagger different starts through this to where we have more coverage. The other thing that we can do is going back to districts, like what we have for our commissioners. So we have District 1 would be pretty much something like from Curtis Hill west to PL. So 1 deputy will be out in that area. And then right now in the East End, we only have 1 deputy at night from Morton all the way to White Pass to Pierce County to Skamania County. And that's unacceptable, that's a liability. So my goal is to put that district starting probably about Cinnabar Road and having 2 deputies up in that area. 1 will go up to Morton, that area covered, and then 1 will go further east. So there is always a coverage. The rest of the folks can be in between and handle calls that way. The Sheriff's Enforcement Team is actually a position. Both of the deputies are funded through a grant, and so giving them up and moving them around, I think we just need to use them correctly. And my goal is to try to get up to 5 deputies, 5 to 6 deputies. 6 would be hard, but we want to get 5 out there on the road with the sergeant. And then what we'll do is we'll have the West End, Region 1, we'll have the guys in the Region 2, and then the East End is Region 3 and 4. And from that, we'll have different roles for those deputies. So our Sheriff's Enforcement Team would truly move them into a PROAC position on that patrol. So there will actually be 4 officers for set, but there'll be traffic, and that's what I use them for. So they'll go out and make traffic stops, make those types of contacts, be that high visibility. Whenever somebody calls for an issue or something like that, like Boistfort, we have people spinning tires out here. We can get somebody out there, and that's their job, is to go out and target that area. My other goal is to get K9, get at least 2 deputies on board, and then they work a mid-shift for both the gold team and the green team. Those are the 2 different shifts. So they can actually work with the traffic officer, the set officers, as a PROAC officer too. From that point on, we just kind of look at what we can do for the community, and the big thing for us is opening communications. So we're having an issue out here in Boistfort, things like that. We can get those people moved out there and target that. On days that are doubled, that means we can put more deputies into that area. high crime, work the case for the FD, things like that. That's my goal, is just to have that communication and have that ability to shove those deputies where they need to go, so.
Okay. Number 3.
Okay, one of the primary things that I think needs to happen is, again, it would be nice to go ahead and move somebody from street crimes, that type of position, back to JNet by putting them into JNet or some other, whatever the ultimate situation that comes up, because I know that Centralia is talking about revamping how that's run. And again, I have no problem working with Centralia or with Chehalis and giving them the reins as long as they're doing it the right way. We don't have to be in charge, we just have to be part of the team. So if we could do that, we can actually use some of the drug funds to help fund that position. And that goes ahead and frees up a few other funds that we are currently using for our current set team that we can use on patrol. Another one of the things that we can do is there's specifically 2 positions within our agency that I would like to look at and see if we can't combine the 2 of them. That's in the administration that would actually, free up funding for another deputy on the roadway. Unfortunately, we're all dealing with budgets. We can't create money that doesn't exist. We have to work within the budget that the commissioners give us, and again, I'm not blaming on the commissioners because they have to work within their limited amount of money and determine what's the best way within the county to go ahead and allocate that funding. So it's one of those things where we just have to take what we currently have and figure out how to stretch it. Now, as far as, talking about 2 deputies in the East End or out here or wherever, we're going to have to look at the criminal statistics and, basically, are there certain times of day or night when a certain area has higher or lower crime, higher or lower traffic issues, and just try to juggle that way. Our current 1040 schedule seems to be working fairly well as far as spreading the people out. By doing the 1040s versus the 410s or the 58s, we actually have fewer overlap times, so there's more time when the deputies are actually on the road serving the citizens. So I think it just basically, we have a good base where we're at now. It's just fine tuning. I mean, there's always room for improvement, so it's just on a weekly, monthly basis, figuring out where we can tweak things to make them work better. So thank you.
Thank you.
Same question?
Yep.
All right, so it's about patrol. And how do we cover a county that is 2,400 square miles? It's a big county. Currently at the sheriff's office, the patrol side is 29 deputies assigned to patrol. At any one time, you have 4 to 5 deputies and 1 supervisor. 1 supervisor supervising 4 to 5 deputies in a county that's 2,400 square miles. My belief is that we need to have adequate staffing, and we need to hire, retain, and promote people who understand what it means to be a public servant and to be out there sacrificing and working. We need to provide them the tools, training, and resources, and mentorship and supervision to do their job successfully. With the staffing level in our county right now, we are failing both the sergeants and the deputies, expecting them to keep us safe and to cover this big of an area. When you look at the national averages of how many officers per 1,000 population, for cities it's over two officers per 1,000. If you look at counties, it's less. It's one point something. I think it's around 1.4, 1.5 deputies per 1,000. So when we look at how big our county is, we have 87,000 people in the county. Take away the incorporated cities, which add up to about 40,000 people. It leaves us with 47,000 people in unincorporated Lewis County. When you do the numbers, including the patrol staff, the administration, detectives, they're looking at 37 commissioned, and that's including the sheriff. So if you take that statistic, 37 commissioned with 47,000 people, we're 10 bodies short of adequately staffing this county. That's a problem. And it's the leadership that needs to find the way to find the money to be able to staff adequately to keep us safe. And it's not coming to the taxpayers and constantly asking them for more money. Before we do that, we have to take a look at the current budget. Where are we spending money? Is there any malfeasance? Are we spending money in places we shouldn't be spending? We have to look at reallocating resources and positions. Do we have an administration that's too top heavy? Do we need as many administrators? Or can people start doing a little more work up top so that we can cut positions up top and move them down on the road where we need them? The only way to keep us safe is the boots on the ground, and that's what needs to be first and foremost. When you look at grant funding, and I know some have talked about grant fundings out there, that it's not the right thing to do. The issue is grant funding, and especially state and federal grants, that's our taxpayer dollars that we've already spent. So leadership should spend the time, and it does take more time to apply for grants and monitor grants. But if it means that we get state and federal money back here in our local pockets to hire more bodies to keep us safe, then that's what the leadership needs to do. We work for the people. It's not about what's easy, it's about what's right. The other thing in our county is, and you know this, those of you that live in PL, it's the same issue with Vader and the East End. The sheriff's office is responsible for every citizen in the county for their safety. They're the head law enforcement, the chief law enforcement executive of the county. Our safety is dependent on the sheriff. We need to start looking at contracting with these local, these towns, and actually do contract services. That means they pay the sheriff's office to provide the deputies, who they're providing the training, they're providing the tools, they're providing the supervision, they're providing all the resources needed for them to be successful. When we look at where we can cut in our budget and where we can cut fat to move things down, that's going to give us a couple positions. When we start looking at contracting with the other cities, that's going to give us additional money to start paying for more deputies. PL, if they have their own police department, they not only pay for the bodies, but they pay for the support services, the records, the evidence, the support staff, everything that goes along with it. They contract with the sheriff's office already has that, already has the infrastructure to take care of it. So if we can build it up to where we can at least have a 1 to 1,000 ratio, that's going to allow us to have deputies working on the East End, an East End detachment that has a supervisor with them, and a detachment on the West End that has a supervisor working. So no longer are we looking at, one supervisor trying to supervise everything going on in the entire county. We now need to be able to add a supervisor on the east side and a supervisor on the west side and have the adequate staffing. So, and if it ever comes to where we need additional funding from the county commissioners, it's up to the sheriff to make sure that they spell out why. Why do we need this? What's the justification? Because every one of our our county commissioners, your safety is a priority to them. Public safety is important. But if we're not presenting to them the reason why we need the money and why we need the bodies, then we're failing them, because they're the ones that have to answer at the end of the day. Thank you.
Before we go on to the next question, when you guys are speaking, can you not use acronyms?
Oh, yes.
We'll try. Like the fire service, we have lots of them too that nobody understands.
So when I do that, raise your hand and I'll know what that means.
So for the next question, Dan, you will be starting off, and then Gabe, and then Tracy, and then Matt. This question: if elected sheriff, what changes, if any, would you make to the jail operations?
Jail operations. Well, the big thing for the jail is open communication with the employees there and their guild and the other unions that work there. Right now, that's the biggest issue in the sheriff's office, is communication and getting the boots on the ground to tell us what's going on and how to make that work. I believe that the jail site can actually be ran by a citizen, a civilian, meaning that there's people there that know how to do the job, and just because they don't wear a badge doesn't mean that they can't run that facility and have an outside the box kind of look at it. That's the huge thing for me. Looking for more employees is a big thing that we need to do over there. And I believe the issue that we have is our leadership right now. There is no communication. It is certain, it's your way, their way, or it's no way. So that's the big thing for me, is just opening up that communication. And then with that, I believe we'll be able to get back to having more contracts with the cities and things like that, because even though Centralia and the other cities have moved away from the sheriff's office by booking people in, they don't book everybody that they used to on their warrants. It's difficult to actually get somebody booked in. I believe it's like a $5,000 bail amount before we can actually get them picked up and taken to the tribe. So that is my thing with them, is to learn what they need over there, implement a out-of-the-box kind of approach to them, and figure out a way to get our cities back involved with our jail. And then obviously we just kind of work with that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, one of the issues that we have with our jail just has to do with, unfortunately, it's wages. And there's nothing we can really do about, at this level, about wages versus until there's a contract. We have corrections deputies that are sitting here in Lewis County, and they're looking just across the border to Thurston County, who's constantly hiring. So we have people that come in the door, get hired, go through the academy, get trained, and then they're already looking and getting recruited from our neighbor to the north, which I don't want to say I'm jealous of them, but it's like, hey guys, be nice to us, don't try to poach our people. But we have to figure out what other non-monetary ways can we encourage people to want to stay, encourage people to have loyalty to our office. So, and that is a difficult question. So one of the things that we can look at is, is there another schedule that will still work good and have appropriate coverage during the times when we have the highest level of bookings? Because there are certain times during the night when, guess what, you have inmates that are locked down. You don't have to have as many people actually staffing. You can go down to one control tower versus multiple control towers, that type of thing. So again, a lot of it comes down to trying to find ways. And unfortunately, I'm going to admit, I don't have the answer. I mean, it's something that we've been struggling with for a long time, trying to figure out what can we do to motivate the people that are here, to provide them with whatever we can that's within the scope of our authority, to make the working environment better. And if any of you have an idea, by all means, we're willing to listen. It's a big struggle. So I don't have an answer for you. I mean, it's one of those, guess what? We're working on it, and we're open to suggestions, but just a whole lot of people are coming in and immediately jump ship for higher pay. So it's a difficult solution.
I have an answer. Okay. So, I mean, we do talk about the first thing is people. In order for us to be able to keep you safe on the street, we have to be able to have a place to put people in jail. We have to have employees there that want to be there. So it's about getting the right people for the right job. People don't leave jobs and careers and organizations. People leave people. So it becomes about leadership. It's about valuing our employees and making it a place where they want to be. That we give them the proper tools, training, and resources. I've known in my career that I can go somewhere else and I can make twice as much money as I was in Centralia. But it's not about going somewhere else. It's not about the money. It's about being valued. This is such a difficult job that we do. It's a public service job. We sacrifice going places with our family, parties, birthday parties, Christmas, to be out here keeping you safe. And so in order for us to keep these people and the employees who want to be here, we have to value them first and foremost, that they are important. And when we build a culture where they know they're valued and supported, then people will want to come and people will want to stay. That's just one component of it. The other issue is back in 2004, when the current jail was built, Sheriff McCroskey at the time said in 20 years this jail will be obsolete. Well, we're past that time. When it was built to house 350 people, and Sheriff McCroskey kind of had a vision, and it was smart. that if we make the jail big enough, then we can contract out to outside jurisdictions, and we can house their people who are serving time. The money that they pay allows us to be able to pay higher wages to our deputies. It allows us to hire more employees to cover the jail, which was a really good idea, and it was smart. Well, now we're looking at a jail that is usually housing between 160 and 170 people on a daily average. Now, I know that COVID had a lot to do with it, because things have changed on the requirements. We are spending over $1 million on medical in the jail. It would be nice to be able to take somebody to jail and not have to be turned away because they ingested fentanyl and have to take them to the hospital, the ER, to get medically cleared, then to come back to the jail. So what we need to do is we need to start talking with the administration at our local hospitals to be able to telemed, so that we don't have to take them from the jail to the hospital to get cleared. We have the facilities inside the jail to be capable of doing that. There's not only public grants out there, but there's private grants out there. And so this is a conversation with these healthcare providers in the hospital. Hey, listen, this is what we want to do. We want to streamline this so that we're not taking in custody people, disrupting your ER, taking up bed spaces for you and I, for our families who need to come in there. So also, we're taking full-time employees to transport them in, sit up there and watch them, and so we're just wasting resources. So we need to start thinking outside the box and looking at how can we keep it in-house? How can we make sure that we have the proper medical inside the jail to deal with these issues and not drain the resources that the public needs to be using? The other issue that we have is the mental health issue. A lot of mental health issues, but it's a lot of it's because of the substance abuse problems, the drug issues that we're having. So we should be looking at working in partnerships with Cascade Mental Health and the state mental health, so that we can actually get funding to put in a mental health wing on the jail. And so when we arrest somebody that has a mental health issue, that they can be secured in locked up facility, the mental health people can deal with them, but they're oversaw, the safety is provided by the correctional staff. There are so many things that, because we haven't been planning ahead, we've known that this jail was going to be obsolete 2 years ago, but we've done nothing to prepare for the future, and that's what we have to start doing now. We have to start having these conversations and bring more people to the table, because the more people we bring to the table, that's more funding that we're going to be able to access to accomplish this. Because we don't want to put it on the taxpayer, but we want to make it more effective and efficient. There is billions of dollars going out to the homeless. The percentage, and I don't know what it is because I don't think anybody's keeping track. I just know from experience that there is a high percentage of homeless people that are being housed at the Lewis County Jail. Well, why can't we apply for a grant for housing, feeding, medical for those homeless people that we are providing everything for? And I think it comes down to, it becomes work. If you're not willing to do the work, you're not going to get the result that's needed. So the first and foremost, we have to focus in on the people and make it a culture where people want to come and people want to stay. We hire the right people for the right job. Don't hire people who want to be road deputies and say you're going to go into the jail first. Because what happens is we pay money to send them to the corrections academy. They come back, they do their field training inside the jail, so we're paying money for that to be done, and then 6 months, a year later, they rotate out to patrol. Now, it's not a clean transition. Once they go out to patrol, guess where they have to go? They have to go back up to the academy because it's a completely separate academy. They come out of the academy that we paid for, now they have to go through the field training again. So we're wasting money. And then what does that do to the people inside the jail? Every time they think they get up to staff, they get pulled back out. So we need to stop doing that. We should hire people for the positions that they want to be. If you want to be a deputy, we hire you as a deputy. If you want to be a corrections deputy, we hire you as a corrections deputy. Picking the right people for the right job. Thanks.
Now,
Well, I'm gonna need the question again.
if elected sheriff, what changes, if any, would you make to the jail operations?
All right, so the biggest problem in our jail right now is staffing. People leave, they don't stay. And it's been like that my entire career. The corrections staff does not stay, they leave. They turn over really, really fast. And I think one of the problems we've had in our correctional facility most recently is a leadership thing. I really like our jail chief. He's a great person. Unfortunately, he's a state trooper and he had no corrections experience. We need somebody who knows how to run a correctional facility to run a correctional facility. It's not a patrol person who was a patrol person who then gets into that facility. We need somebody there who knows how to run a jail. That's key. Getting the right person to lead that agency, that part of the department that knows how to deal with corrections. So corrections deputies, that is an entirely different thing. The correctional staff that I've met with, and I've met with quite a few, they all say the same kind of thing, that they love their jobs. And I'll tell you right now, I cannot be a corrections deputy. I was in the jail for a short period of time before I went to the road. I didn't get hired there, they just didn't know what to do with me when I first started on the road, so they threw me over to the jail for a little while. It is a unique job, and it is not one that fits my skill set. The people who are there are amazing deputies, and they don't get the recognition they deserve. And I think that's part of the problem, is that they are amazing people, and they are locked away in a dark cave all day long, 365 days a year, and nobody knows who they are. They need to be recognized for what they are, which is a member of our team. The unfortunate thing is there's a disconnect between the rest of the office, and we need to do things to bring them back together. And part of that is to do joint training. There's no reason why we can't do firearms training with patrol and corrections, and they don't do that now. They keep them separate. And so it divides this wall in our department, and we can't have that. We have to have them grow closer together. So that's really the key, is getting the right people to do the job, getting the people who want to do that job to stay, treating them like they are the great, amazing people that they are, and recognizing them for that hard work that they do. That's really the first step, is to get those people to stay with our agency. If they don't stay, we're going to continue to turn them over and over and over. And we just absolutely can't have it. Our jail is doing something fantastic. It has reached national medical accreditation, which is great work, but the medical system in the jail is difficult to deal with. We bring people in and we have to take them over to the hospital. We need to find ways to work not just with the jail, but with other agencies. There's a facility in Centralia that is working on being able to do medical clearances for us without having to take them to the hospital. They can do low-level medical clearances that are easy. If somebody has a cut on their finger and they need a couple stitches, they can do those. So finding ways to still utilize medical systems outside of the jail that are quicker and more designed for what we need, not designed for, we don't need to send somebody to the emergency room to get a medical clearance because they're intoxicated. We need to take them to a facility that can handle that. Spending a bunch of money to build a hospital inside of the jail is just not feasible. The jail is half of the sheriff's office budget. It is $10 million of the sheriff's office budget. Building more space in there is just not feasible, especially in the climate that we have right now, without asking all of you for even more money. And I don't know about you guys, my taxes are high enough, I can't afford anymore. If I get asked to spend more money, I don't know where it's gonna come from. I don't know which of my kids I'm gonna have to kick out because I can't feed them anymore. That was my little dig to say that they can leave now. So we need to find ways to live within our means there. Improving things is great, but finding a way to spend an enormous amount of money to rebuild a hospital inside of a jail is just not feasible or reasonable. So those are my priorities for the jails. It's people first, take care of them so we can lower that turnover rate.
Thanks, guys. The next question, Gabe will be the lead on it, and then Tracy, and then Matt, and then Dan. The state has recently passed legislation allowing an appointed board to have power to remove a sheriff. What are your thoughts on this?
The Constitution tells us that, guess what, the voters should have the ultimate authority on who is or who is not the sheriff. So unfortunately, you have an unelected board up there at CJTC, and it's not just an unelected board, it's one that is going farther and farther to the left. They keep removing people with common sense and putting on people that have an agenda. So it's something that should not happen at all. Fortunately, here in the last week or so, it was overturned, or at least temporarily overturned, in Thurston County Superior Court. We know that that's not over yet, but, again, the voters should have ultimate control. This should not be something that an unelected board has any control over whatsoever.
Me?
Yeah.
So this one is near and dear to my heart. So I was wrongfully terminated from Centralia on April 29th. And it was interesting. In the morning, I had actually been praying about if God wants me to not run for sheriff, that he would shut the door. And when I went in, 5 o'clock in the evening, was terminated. I was given the opportunity to resign or retire, and since I haven't done anything wrong, there was no way I was going to do that. So when I left, I got in the car, and my wife tells me, "Hey, did you see what Thurston County Superior Court just did? They just put out that they ruled on this sheriff's law, putting a injunction on it so that it was this was a extremely liberal judge up in Thurston County, and her ruling was so good on that this is unconstitutional, just like everything that we've been saying that it's unconstitutional. No board can dictate who becomes sheriff and who stays in sheriff. That is the people's right. This is an elected position, and this is the most important elected position because this is the sheriff holds people accountable for violating the law. Even elected officials who fail to uphold their oath to uphold and enforce the Constitution and laws of the United States of America and state of Washington. By them passing that law, trying to take the power away from the people so that they're not held accountable, extremely wrong. So this judge was extremely wise in the decision that she made. And then last Tuesday, the Washington State Supreme Court upheld the injunction. So it's still going to go through the court process, but as of now, we've got two different judges in our liberal areas that are upholding this as unconstitutional. So what I think needs to happen now is that elected sheriffs need to stand up and start doing what's right. Start holding these elected officials up in Washington, or up in Olympia, that are violating their oath of office to uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States of America and state of Washington, to let them know that this is wrong. RCW 42-2100 says that public officials who refuse to do what they're enjoined by law to do, it's actually a misdemeanor crime. So why don't we start holding them accountable for violating the law? This is a government of the people, by the people, for the people, and the office of sheriff is the one that holds them accountable. So I'm glad that they did the right thing.
Yeah, I think this is probably the one thing, or one of the few issues you'll hear all of us agree on. I mean, it's pretty clear that Washington State overstepped with this. I'm glad that it's been enjoined for now, and that it likely will be upheld, and the law will be overturned. I thought it would take longer. I thought for sure we would have to wait for it to go up to the federal court, but I'm very happy that it happened sooner. I worry about what precedent this would set. At what point do they say, okay, now we're going to get rid of commissioners if we don't agree with what they say. We're going to get rid of school board members. We're going to get rid of your city council members. This has to be where we draw a line in the sand, because it's up to you folks to pick your elected officials. It is not the government bureaucracy's job to do that. That's how we end up with kings. We don't do that. We vote who we want in there, and they stay. If you're not happy with the job that an elected official is doing, it's your job to remove them. It's your job to vote them out of office or do a recall vote. It is not the governor's job to do that. So I'm glad that it is the way it is, and I hope that it stays that way. And if it doesn't, it's up to you people to make sure that you stand up and say something. That's why we have the government we have, is because we, the people, spoke out and wanted it a certain way. So if laws are passed we don't agree with, we need to stand up and say something about it.
I believe everybody said everything that we need to say on that. Luckily, it has gone to the injunction portion of that, so hopefully it gets thrown out. But on the side note, just so everybody kind of calms down a little bit, is that group at CJTC is not a politically driven group. Unfortunately, we've had to deal with this type of issues since 2021 when they changed our rules for law enforcement. So deputies and officers and troopers, we've had to deal with anonymous complaints. We've had to deal with people putting their names down, saying a lot of things just because they didn't get what they wanted from that officer, or they didn't like the way that officer told them no, because that's the thing that we do, is we tell people no, or we take you to jail. So we've had to deal with these type of issues since 2021. With that being said, I believe that we're in a good place now with the judges that we have that said, hey, this isn't right. So the process is gonna go through, and hopefully we can get this nullified, definitely cleaned up to where it needs to be. If there's ever an issue with the sheriff, an elected official, period, if they do anything wrong, criminally wrong, the FBI is built for that. That's truly what they're supposed to do, is investigate. And that right there, if the person is investigated for a crime, anything like that, they are removed from that office because of the situation that's going on there. So I think it was a political move by our legislature to do that. Luckily, our judges, which are surprisingly leaning towards taking care of this, it's a huge step for us for common sense. So again, like Matt said, if it goes further, then it's your voices that count. The sheriff, they have a certain amount, but it's the citizens, and there's more of you than there is sheriffs. And that's the big thing, like Keith Swank said up there. He's gonna have that courthouse surrounded by his people, not allowing them to remove them. So it comes down to your guys' vote and what you guys need and want.
Final question that I had, we'll start off with Tracy. What would you consider to be your greatest strength, and what would you see as your greatest personal challenge if elected?
I think my greatest strength is honestly my faith in God. And just my upbringing with, when I think of honor and I think of integrity, I don't think of those as just words. I think of those as actions, that we need to be men of honor. We need to be people of honor. And when you're in a public service position, regardless of what that is, it's not about you, it's about the people you serve. And so it's very important to be grounded and have an understanding that if I want to make money and if I want to be something great, then I go into public practice in the public world to do that. But if I want to be a servant and I want to serve others, then I need to have the right heart attitude. And as I talked about integrity before, integrity is doing that which is right, regardless of the consequence to you and regardless of who's watching. It's very important that in a leadership position, and I look at any position within law enforcement, whether a brand new officer or deputy or somebody, or the sheriff or a police chief, that integrity is very important, and you need to lead by example, and you need to own that and do that. Probably it's on the same line, is I'm honest to a fault, and so sometimes I can get misunderstood with what I'm saying, so I have to choose my words. I'm very black and white and literal on things. My wife asked me, do these jeans make my butt look big?
Really, babe?
I'm sorry.
Really?
Like, it's really hard for me to answer that, and so now I just am quiet. I've learned to be quiet and not answer what is in my, does this look good? Don't say it looks, oh yeah, it looks fine. Because fine is not the right answer. So, but I would say that that's probably one of the biggest issues that I will have, because you've got to understand that when you're communicating with people and talking with people and building relationships, and everything starts with a relationship. And so by understanding those faults in me and how I can be, I'm very conscious about when I'm talking to somebody and I gauge, because I don't want there to be a misunderstanding. I don't want them to misunderstand what I'm saying. Words matter, and I've learned that words matter. If I say that I think law enforcement should be a family, Well, to me, a family is a functional family that's full of love, support, accountability, forgiveness. You know, they're there for you. But if I'm talking to somebody who their definition of family comes from their history and they grew up in a dysfunctional family, they're going to disagree with me. They're going to say that, no, I don't want it to be a family. I want it to be more like a team, because at least when I was on a team, you know, I wasn't taught, I wasn't beat, I wasn't, you know, yelled at, I wasn't. So I have learned that I have to define things when I talk to people to make sure that we're on the same page with our definitions and what we mean. So.
I'd probably say working with others in administrative leadership positions in a police department as a sheriff, you have to work with other people. You can't accomplish anything on your own. You have to work with other entities, fire departments, public safety groups, community organizations, dispatch centers. You have to work with all those people. You can't go in there and control. You have to collaborate, not control. You have to work with everybody. The sheriff is going to have to work with the county commissioners to make sure that they have the right budgetary needs that they have. They're going to have to work with the local fire departments to make sure that they can support them when they go to fire calls and aid calls. They have to work with the smaller agencies to make sure that they have the tools that they need to be successful, and that we can work with them to reach their goals. Collaborating with everybody is important. I'm not going to pretend to be the smartest person in the room all the time. That's just not true. None of us can claim that. We have to surround ourselves with people that are better at their specific fields than we are, and we have to have the presence of mind to listen to them when they give us advice. It's our job as a leader to make the best decision based off of that advice, but we need to make sure that we get it and that we work with other people to get to that point. I do that well. I do it now. It's part of my job. It's working with all of these different entities, from the Centralia Police Department to the Sheriff's Office to emergency management to fire departments. It's why I'm endorsed by fire chiefs and former emergency management directors. It's why they look to me, is because I've worked with them before and they know I can continue to do it as the sheriff. Now, the other side of that is the thing that I struggle with, and my wife and I were actually talking about it on my way here, is I don't think anybody likes me. It's a challenge of mine. We'll go somewhere and we're on our way there and I'm like, man, nobody's gonna even want to hear me talk. I'm gonna show up there, there's gonna be like 2 people, they're gonna laugh at me, and then I'm gonna go home and it's gonna be sad. And she's like, you're absolutely right, nobody likes you. That's what she says. So I struggle with that personally. It's something I've been trying to work on. I'm a normal person like anybody else, and it's difficult to get in front of people and to bear your thoughts and ideas. And I have to remember that, 1, not everybody's gonna like me, and 2, I'm actually okay. And so as long as people are supposed to laugh a little, it makes me really feel like you don't like me. There we go, now I feel better. So that's my personal struggle, but I also think that it drives me to continue to want to improve, because I don't think I'm ever quite good enough. I always want to be a little bit better. It's why I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to work out. It's because I want to be a little bit better every day. It's why my wife and I pray every night before we go to bed, because we want to be a little bit better every day. So I'm working on that. So if you don't like me, just don't tell me. Save me the ego trip for now.
I don't tell him that nobody likes him. I
Hey,
tell him
no
not
interrupting.
everybody.
No interrupting.
There's a difference.
Okay? Yeah?
I'm going to say just what Tracy said. Servant leadership is the one thing that I'm great at, is I take care of my people. If my thought is, if I take care of the people that work for me, they're going to take care of you guys. If I inspire them, they're going to be inspired to go out and take care of you. If we're working short, no matter what, they're going to get out there and they're going to work hard for me and for the citizens. That's our biggest thing. Servant leadership is my number one thing for us at this office. We do not have that. We have almost a totalitarian leadership, kind of robotic, and they say certain things, they do certain things, and no matter what, that's how it is. That's not how we need to be, because we have to work with the commissioners, we have to work with our guilds, we have to participate with our unions to take care of those people, so then they come out and take care of you. Because as a deputy, if I'm upset because somebody above me does something stupid and I don't understand it, and they don't want to tell us, they just say, do it. Guess who's going to reap the benefits of that when I come out and I talk to you as a citizen? I'm out there and now I'm upset and you're like, what did I do to that deputy? That's where we're at right now. So So we took a course called Gold Training, and it tells you different styles of leadership, and mine was servant leadership. I believe that I take care of my people will take care of you. Listening and being open and trying to figure out the best thing for those people, for deputies in overall patrol, for deputies in corrections, for our administrative staff, then having a administration surround you that is there to know they're smarter than us in that one position, meaning that they know what exactly they need to do, and this is what we're bringing to the table. And listening and knowing that, having humility, saying, you're right, you got it, let's run with it. Things like that. My drawback is ADHD. There's no question. When I have ADHD is a superpower for road patrol, because you see everything, you do everything. As long as things are happening or emergencies are happening, you are great. It's when the downtime happens, and that's when, unfortunately, ADHD looks for dopamine. So, unfortunately, looking back in my past, those are the times that I was like, oh, well, you know, this, and this. And unfortunately, there was a lot of other things that led up to it. But ADHD is it's a superpower, but it's also my kryptonite. So that's what I got.
I would say one of my greatest strengths is the ability to work with others without letting my ego get in the way. I ask myself what is right, not who is right. So I could have somebody that, guess what, this person doesn't give good advice at most times, but guess what, at this particular time they have an idea, I'm looking at that idea, and guess what? Hey, guess what, we can follow this one. I don't care if this person isn't somebody that I normally trust, but we went ahead and critiqued the idea, and we realized we can follow it. When I'm willing to get right in and get my hands dirty, regardless of what my position may be. I mean, I'm right in there with the detectives, doing whatever the task at hand may be, trying to help out. Sometimes they kind of look at me where it's like, oh great, I'm sorry, I'll step back. I know this is your job. I'm sorry. I'm used to being an on-the-job person. I could work with Chehalis, with Centralia, with any of the small towns. I mean, they call me, ask me questions, and it's just like a peer-to-peer conversation, even if it's a patrol deputy asking me, or if it's me talking with the sheriff down in Cowlitz County. He called me the other day, and it was a great conversation. I mean, the most down-to-earth gentleman in the world, asking questions about animal control because they were trying to start up their new program. So regardless of who the person is, I'm able to communicate, not speaking down to anyone, but just on a peer-to-peer level, regardless of the difference in perceived rank. One of my biggest issues is I'm so self-critical about myself. I'm always self-guessing, second-guessing. Okay, I just had this conversation or did this certain thing. What could I have done better? Why didn't I do it this other way? Sometimes I just have to realize that, guess what? You can only make a decision based on the details you have at the time, and don't be the Monday morning quarterback for your own actions. I mean, you can try to learn from your mistakes, but don't be so self-critical. So that's my biggest issue.
Thank you, gentlemen. Those are the questions that I had pre-written. Ruth, are there any?
Well, it's getting to be 8 o'clock. Is everybody okay with a couple more questions? Or are you done?
We're here for you guys.
Let's keep up. Okay, so I got a bunch, so I'm gonna just do a few here. This one should be fairly short. And I don't know who we start with number 1 again, right? Whoever that is.
That's me.
Will you find it hard to work with or for a candidate here if you do not win? Because only one's gonna win.
No, it'll be easy. I mean, we all have the same goals in mind, even if we have different ideas on how to reach it. Everybody here and everybody who gets into public service wants to do right by the community. And so as long as we all maintain those goals, it should be relatively simple. If I don't get elected, then I'm still the deputy chief at Chehalis. We still have to look out for the citizens of Chehalis and the citizens of the county. So we're still going to work together. That doesn't change anything. Are you number 2?
I am
Yes.
number 2. So I believe that's like primary questions, what that is, since there's 4 of us and we'll be primary on August 4th to find out who's moving the 2 on. If I am not one of the 2 moving on, I definitely will talk to the 2 that are moving on and give them my weight. If I believe one of them meets what I want. That's the reason why I'm running, is because there's a politician and then there's what we need, and that's why I'm running for this. So I have no problem stepping back and talking to whoever it is and figuring out which one needs weight, if they want it. I don't know if they do, but that's definitely something that, for that. And as we go forward and we come to November and we find out who the new sheriff will be, no matter what, and if it's not me, I am the guild president, and I will welcome them in, and we'll work together. If they want to work with us, we will figure out the way to implement their vision, and hopefully we can help get some of our vision in there too. So I have no problem with that.
Test, remember your number? Okay, I failed. So, no, if I am not elected, and one of these other fine gentlemen is, I have no problem with working with them. I am a dedicated person. I'm dedicated myself to the Lewis County Sheriff's Office, to the citizens of Lewis County, and my goal is to make sure that the citizens have the best service possible. So if someone else is elected, one of the things that I would want to do, I am one of the 2 people that are currently in the administration that don't plan on retiring. So they can put me wherever they want to put me, night shift on the road, whatever. But in the meantime, I want to make sure that the knowledge that I have, if they want it, I can pass it on to them so we have a smooth transition and don't have something like has happened in other jurisdictions in the past where it's kind of like, no, guess what? We're just closing the locking the filing cabinets. I'm out. And bad things happen. I mean, that happened in Pacific County where a bunch of internal files were shredded. And we ended up trying to do a background on somebody, and they had no records because the previous administration had, basically torpedoed the following one. So, anyway, I would have no issue with working for anybody, doing whatever they told me to do, and again, making sure we were able to pass on the appropriate information just so that they didn't come in blind. I mean, they could obviously decide to change things immediately, but at least it's nice to know this is how it is now, so you know where you're starting from. Thank you.
I'll start off by thanking these gentlemen. That was nice. If the people of Lewis County don't elect me as their sheriff, as I've been saying this whole time, my plan had always been, probably the last 15 years, was to retire next May when I'm 53. I can retire now, but I'm in the fight, so I'm staying in. If the people of Lewis County don't elect me, then that means that God doesn't want me there, and I plan on retiring and just enjoying my life, not as a public servant, but as a private citizen.
Okay, the next question is, what are your thoughts about the volunteer program? Start with the beginning.
Okay. I am all for the volunteer program. I came from the volleys with the fire department. We had a great program at Lewis County. Unfortunately, some things happened during the COVID that we kind of pushed it away. But our volunteers, as long as they're trained correctly and they have the right leadership, they're an asset. It's a force multiplier for us. So getting more people up in the East End, just to do transport, do traffic stops, things like that, that's the reserve program. And then on top of that, our volunteers that go out and assist us do parades, anything and everything under the sun, doing our SO flyers. I mean, it's such a huge part that we lost. And that was part of us losing our ability to communicate with the citizens of Lewis County. We just stopped, and no matter what, I mean, we could have picked it back up, but we didn't. And so that's a huge part that we need to bring back in, because if we do ever have to say, hey, we need the money, we need some help, we need to raise a tax or do a public safety tax, I want a program to where the citizens say, you know what, they're doing great work on law enforcement, they're doing great work in the jail, they got volunteers out there, they're participating in this community, they're part of this community, we're gonna fight for you. We're gonna go to the commissioners and say, hey, these guys need this. So definitely, volunteer program is coming back in the door if I get in.
I like to use the volunteers, but unfortunately I have to throw a caveat to this one. So we have to, what exactly are we looking at the volunteers to do for us? What service or assistance are they going to provide? One of the things we talked about are reserves. There's been several different RCWs and WACs that have come down from the legislature over the years that have limited what we can actually use them for based on their training. And I've heard people say, oh, we're just going to get them training. Well, sometimes the training, in order to get it, you actually have to be trained full-time at CJTC and be a full-time officer, and they can't actually keep that certification just working as a reserve. So it's not quite as black and white as simple. There's things that we would love to do, but yet if we legally can't, because the training that we're gonna get them would only work if they're being paid as a full-time deputy, it doesn't help. So there's other areas we can. We've had support volunteers that actually came out and helped verify sex offenders. You know, they've helped at the fair, they've helped at other events. Over the years, nothing wrong with age, but they kind of, the group that we had, there was not a whole lot of new blood coming in, and people were getting older, and it's like, I'm too old to actually be walking around and doing this. So we need somebody running that program that's able to truly motivate them and bring in fresh, you know, people that are younger that have a little bit better physical capabilities. Now we currently have Search and Rescue, which is made up of several different groups, and they are very active. You know, you have Packwood Search and Rescue, Lewis County ATV, Cascade Dogs, Mossy Rock Search and Rescue doesn't have very many people, but having groups like that where you can figure out something where they can constantly have some task to perform. One of the issues with the support volunteers is if we didn't have something for months because guess what, we really don't have, you know, we were able to take care of the sex offender notifications ourselves because nobody was available, so a couple deputies or detectives ran out and took care of it real quick. They kind of get demotivated because it's like, okay, I'm a volunteer, but I'm really not doing anything. So it's how to keep them engaged. But it's just, I would love to have volunteers, but we just have to be selective on, you know, how can we actually use them and not violate a law or put them at some undue risk of liability or injury. Because that's something we always have to consider is, guess what, if one of these volunteers gets injured because we have them doing X, Y, or Z, guess what? That liability is on, well, number one, they're injured, which is the worst portion, but the liability is now on the county. You know, that comes out of, and we don't want another lawsuit because you know that lawsuits happen all the time. So anyway, just things to consider. It would be great to do, we just have to understand that there are limitations and we have to look at it ahead of time on how are we going to actually use this and weigh the, you know, the benefit versus the cost. So, thank you.
And so I think the question was, will I bring back volunteers?
Well, what are your thoughts about volunteering?
Oh, thoughts are, I think they're very important. I mean, I started my law enforcement career at 16 as a volunteer cadet with Centralia. I think youth programs are very important. I mean, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the starting of that program. We want to bring our youth in, get them involved, and get them wanting to stay locally. We don't want them to go anywhere else. Stay in our county. We want them to raise their family here and get a job here in law enforcement. So why not have a program? I think it's very important to have those youth programs. But even that, like, we are not even tapping into the resources that we have in our county. We have so many retired people that have skill sets and they just want to be involved. It is important that anytime you bring in volunteers, just like any staffing, that you give them the proper tools, training, and the resources and supervision to be successful. That's how we limit liability. But we don't, I mean, our job is full of liability. That doesn't mean that we don't do anything and use that as an excuse. We need these programs. It's about community engagement. We have retired law enforcement officers living in this county, and why? Because this is a great county to live in, so they move here. Several have asked, you know, we have cold cases. They have investigative experience. We could start bringing in volunteer detectives that can come in and work cold cases. You know, the one thing that's not touched anywhere is public corruption. That's a huge thing. Well, we can bring in volunteers. I'll tell you, the best investigator is that stay-at-home mom that is on her computer and can find dirt on anybody. I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about. So, I mean, it's important that, you know, we have people that have skill sets and they want to do stuff. This is intriguing and we want to bring them in. There's one of the sheriffs that I spent a lot of time talking to down along the Columbia. He's got, 24,000 people in his county and he has 200 volunteers. They're not all gun-carrying reserves. You know, everybody has a different skill set, but they're utilizing those skill sets. He has a volunteer air wing, pilots who donate their time, their fuel to come out and assist on everything going on, whatever the sheriff's office needs. So we just need to start, to me, it's not just a force multiplier that it brings up resources to help us be more effective and efficient with what we're doing, but it's the relationships. You know, now we're having these relationships with so many more people, and they're telling their friends, and hey, we've got a great place. You know, we want support. You want to trust your sheriff's office. Who are you going to trust? You're going to trust your family or your friends. And the more that we can bring in and the more that we can utilize to keep us safe is going to keep us safe. And we're going to be more effective and efficient with what we're doing.
Volunteer programs. Volunteer programs are fantastic. They mean a lot to me. I've done a lot of volunteer work. So I think one of the things that we need to know about volunteer programs is they have that same 10 people problem. Anybody who volunteers know that you see the same 10 people in every single volunteer group you're a part of. And they volunteer for baseball, football, theater, track, they're everywhere. They're the same 10 people. So why don't we, instead of having our emergency management volunteers, our fire department volunteers, Centralia volunteers, why don't we have a countywide volunteer group and utilize those same 10 people in the same room doing the same thing for everybody? It makes more sense to me to pool those resources together. And yes, there's a cost that comes to it. There's a cost in staffing to manage those volunteers, but when we spread that out over multiple agencies, we reduce that cost. As far as liability, there's liability in everything. There's a liability when I drove here today, but I did it anyhow because it's the right thing to do. Making sure that we meet accreditation standards will help reduce that liability so that if something does come up, we at least have a defendable place to come from. We can mitigate some of that, and hopefully if something does go wrong, we can either reduce the lawsuit altogether or significantly reduce the settlement amount. So we have to make sure that we do it the right way. The other part of the volunteer groups, because I really look at them as two separate organizations. We have our adult volunteers and then we have our youth. It's the same thing with the youth programs. As much as we all want to have our own Explorer program, it's not realistic for Centralia to have one, Napavine to have one, the Sheriff's Office to have one. We need to pool that together and have a county-wide Explorer program where we pull resources from everybody. Everybody trying to do their own thing just doesn't work. We're better when we work together. And that's really what we need to focus on, is working together and pooling those resources so that we can make sure we have good, quality volunteer programs that we can all share and be a part of.
Okay, I'm only gonna do one more because then we gotta have you guys stand up and do your final speech. And this one I'm gonna need a little help with because the question is, do you support working closely with JNet? Why or why not? And I kind of know JNet is the drug thing, but I have no idea what JNet stands for, so I have no idea what I just said.
Do you want me to go first?
So who's number 3?
Gabe would go
Okay.
first.
Okay, you're first.
So just a test on what it stands for?
After I talk about it, the question
Yeah, part
is,
of it, yeah.
Okay.
Do you support working closely with JNet? Why or why not?
I do support working close, well, this JNet, can I make up the acronym?
Yeah, go for it.
No, I don't want to make it up. Then I'm something really stupid. Joint Narcotics Enforcement Team. But anyway, I don't want to make, anyway. I do definitely support working with JNet. Unfortunately, our agency, and I don't know exactly why, because I wasn't part of that. I do know there was some fallout with the SWAT team when there was a separation followed by JNet, and I don't want to make an assumption there. But it is having those resources working together. I mean, again, you have the expertise of like Tracy or somebody else from Centralia, from Chehalis County. We all have our different strengths and weaknesses, all those different agencies. And by having them working together, when you need more resources for one of their investigations, you have somebody from each of these agencies that can reach out back to their home agency and get buy-in. So right now, again, the Sheriff's Office is not part of JNet. So when something happens, they're doing an investigation, they can reach and ask, but it's not quite as easy when they don't have basically when the Sheriff's Office does not have a representative, in that organization. So anyway, I probably lost the whole thing the question, but anyway, I do support being part of JNet. It's just one of those things, I don't truly understand why we ever pulled out, but I do know that I'm sure that there was some personality conflicts of some sort. I'm not saying who is right, who is wrong. I know that from working patrol, when you deal with a dispute, normally there's some fault on both sides. Nobody is blameless. So anyway, thank you.
All right, now Okay, so JNET is the Joint Narcotics Enforcement Team. It was established back in 2015. I ended up becoming the supervisor in January of 2019. And at the time that it was established with the Sheriff's Office, Centralia, and Chehalis as the stakeholders. Centralia provided the supervisor and 2 detectives, plus all the infrastructure, the support staff, evidence, everything. The Sheriff's Office provided 1 detective, and Chehalis provided 1 detective. Now, my belief is the drug problem is such a huge problem. It affects every facet of our society. Our crime rate goes up, whether it's property crimes or crimes against people. It destroys families, a lot of single family homes because of addiction and drug abuse. The mental health issues. I mean, good families are being destroyed because their kids are dying. It is a huge problem. Since the responsibility constitutionally for the safety of everyone in this county is the sheriff's responsibility, I have issues with the sheriff and the sheriff's office not taking lead in every program that is out there to help keep us safe, whether it's volunteer programs, whether it's the drug unit, it's everything. The sheriff's office can't rely and count on every city wanting to participate. A chief can't make a decision without the okay of an elected body. So the only one that can actually make the decisions to keep us safe and 100% is responsible for that, that's our sheriff. The sheriff's office should be the lead organization, not relying on a city to make sure that this stays afloat. Listen, the sheriff's office should be the lead. These agencies, yes, we want to work together with them. We want you to bring and be part of what we're doing to make our job easier, to make us more effective and efficient with what we do. But we can't rely on the decisions that the cities are going to make, because if you get an elected city council that doesn't agree that the drugs are a problem, guess what? They'll be able to pull out. And where does that leave the citizens of Lewis County? Without a drug task force that's focusing on a huge problem. And so I think that the bigger picture, what JNET is, yes, I plan on bringing JNET back. Now, will it be JNET or will it be better than JNET? We're missing, when we don't look at our federal partners. Lewis County is deemed a HIDA county, and I'll tell you what a HIDA county is by the federal government. We have been deemed a high-intensity drug trafficking area by the federal government. They understand the amount of drugs that travel through here and that are here in our county. Being a HIDA county then allows us to get federal money, so our tax dollars coming back federally. If we form a HIDA task force, and not only just with our local partners, but also with our state and federal partners, that allows us to have access to more funding. Back in the day, before it was JNET, it was actually UNET, the Unified Narcotics Enforcement Team, which was a HIDA-funded task force. It funded four and a half full-time positions. So we need to be looking at how do we get the staffing where we need to do without going after the taxpayer dollars. Well, we need to start looking at broadening what we're doing. You know, the drugs are not just here. The labs aren't here anymore. We're not seeing, clandestine meth labs. There's not fentanyl labs here. It's all being brought in from outside. And if we just form our own little team here and we don't have this huge federal and state partnerships, then we're actually not dealing with the main issue. The main issue is source of supply. If we can take care of source of supply and we don't have the drugs coming here, our friends and family members and the people that are users, if they can't get the drugs, then hopefully they're able to detox, and then they'll get clarity of mind and they'll make that decision that, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. I've said this analogy. It's, you've got on your neighboring property, they have an oak tree, and the leaves keep falling into your yard, and you're out there raking up the leaves, raking up the leaves, raking up the leaves. You're spending time after time after time, your time to rake up these leaves. When somebody comes in and cuts that tree down, guess what happens to your leaf problem? Your source of supply is gone, and so now you're not wasting your time doing this over and over again. So I think that when we look at what JNet is, JNet needs to be much bigger than it is, and it needs to have more relationships for us to be effective and efficient and successful on disrupting and dismantling these large drug trafficking organizations. And I think that the sheriff's office needs to be the lead. So.
The short answer is the sheriff's office should have never pulled out of JNet. That's the short answer. They should have stayed in it the entire time. We have to focus on narcotics in the county, but I believe that JNet needs to be tweaked a little bit. We need to focus on not just narcotics, but street crimes in general. It's not just the drugs, it's the prolific burglars that are out there. We need a unit that's dedicated to going after that sits with all of the departments, with all of our agencies, because the criminals in Chehalis and Centralia are the same ones that are out here. And if we can work together to find them and bring them back, not just for drugs, but for everything, that's what we need to focus on. I have a little different stance than Tracy when it comes to narcotics. I don't know, my theory, and it's based on how we handled things with shoplifters in Chehalis. We had a shoplifting problem. People would come to Walmart along the I-5 corridor and they would steal from us all the time. So we booked every single one of them. We said, you know what? No more cite and release. No more, don't do that again. Every single one of you goes to jail. We saw a 50% reduction in shoplifters. That solves a problem. That takes care of an issue. Arresting a drug dealer in Seattle does not solve the person selling dope across the street from you, because they cut a deal so that they didn't have to go to jail so that somebody would go after somebody in Seattle. That does not solve your problem. That does not make it safer for your kids to be there. I know, I lived across the street from a drug house. We had to move because nobody would get them out of there. They kept getting deals cut because they wanted to go after the bigger fish, and they maintained a problem in my community to the point where I had to move. I, who was a cop at the time, had to move. That's a problem. We need to focus on the drugs that are in this community, and we need to let people know that if you are going to sell drugs in our community and you're going to use drugs in our community, we're going to hold you accountable. You are going to get arrested. You are not going to get a cut of deal. You are going to go to jail. If you want to go and leave our county because of that, good. Go. That's where our focus needs to be, is on taking care of our neighbors and each other. That's why we're cops. That's why we do what we do, is to protect the people here. It may sound a little cold because I don't care about Thurston County as much, but I'm a cop here to take care of you and your families.
Yeah. Well, like I talked earlier, I was part of the sheriff's enforcement team. We were pretty much the uniform portion for JNet. Hand in hand, they took down a lot of bad guys that were coming through, a lot of bad guys in our area. The sheriff's enforcement team, we were actually U.S. Marshal TFOs, JNet task force officers, and then also JNet was the DEA task force officers. So we worked hand in hand with these guys, and that's kind of what we need to do, because unfortunately JNet, I believe, has changed since somebody's not running it right now. So it's more of a street crimes, local. We're not looking at the bigger picture. That's the problem, is we need to look at the local problem and the big problem. And that means people coming through, and that means the people who are living here. And I believe that we figure out a way to do exactly that. So you have a uniform response to the sheriff's enforcement team, and you don't have to have different acronyms for different things, but just have a group of people that are focused on taking care of the citizens and the citizens of Washington State. And I mean, we take the big picture, we take the little picture, and we go after them. We put people in jail that we believe that we need to go there, but we also have the ability to run investigations, so it may cut a deal, but I believe that they still need to go to the CR jail, no matter what, and then they can get out and they can work the deal with the DEA or the U.S. Marshals, things like that. But I believe that we have the ability, and it just takes work. It just takes the people in the leadership positions to make it work. Do I believe the sheriff's office should be the big umbrella over it? 100%. But just like what we used to do back in UNET, is we'd have a rotating sergeant that would run that unit. And that's something that we should bring back. We do that for our OIS, the Region 3 team. Whereas one county will be the lead for that year, and then the next year will be a different county. So it keeps everybody involved in the pie and handling things. And that is a huge thing, as I believe we get back to figuring out what JNet needs to be. And again, it's the big picture and the little picture. We have to look at everything, because we have to get outside the box of what we're usually doing right now. And to get U.S. Marshals back in here, get DA back in here, and get their funds to allow us to do a lot of work. Because we use the U.S. Marshal funds to do other things too, which for the RSOs and for the detectives to go out and do extra work with details to focus time on them. So, yes. But JNet's not there, so whoever comes into this seat, that's their job, is to figure out what the next step is to get this back to where we are targeting the bad guys. No matter what, bad guys get targeted, they go to jail.
Thank you, guys. Last round here, 3-minute last statements. And we'll start with the, Matt. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, so 3-minute statements.
Perfect. So you're gonna give me a warning at some point?
I'll hold my hand up.
When I get to 3 minutes or before?
I'll give you 30 seconds.
Perfect, because I'll need it. So, thank you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to us. It's important that you take the opportunity to hear all of us and what we have to say. You being here is why we have a democracy, and it's the important part of our democracy. So, I'm going to start with this. Leadership is hard. It's challenging. I've been in a leadership position. I've had to sit in rooms and decide who we're going to hire, who we're not going to hire, what disciplinary action we're going to take on employees. It's hard. Not every decision that we make will be a decision people agree with. There's a joke that I tell my guys that says 50% of the decisions I make you'll like, 50% you'll hate, and 50% you won't care about. And that's about right. So what I tell all of our employees when they come in, and I think it's a good standard to have, and as long as we hold to these values, it works out well for us. I tell them that at some point in their career, they're going to sit on the other side of the table from me, and we're going to have a difficult conversation, because that's the nature of law enforcement. You will go through your career, you will make mistakes, and that's okay. So I tell them there's 3 important things when they sit over there. The first thing is, when you sit over there, just own what happened. Just say, whoops-a-daisy, I made a mistake. It's okay, it happens to all of us. The other 2 things are a little bit more challenging. It's that we need to go out there every day. We need to focus on taking care of the people in the community and the people we serve with. If we focus on those 2 things, it doesn't matter what policy we violate or what mistake we make. If that is where our heart is and that's where our head is at, is focusing on taking care of you and the people that we work with, the decision we make might violate policy, but it won't be wrong. So as long as that's our focus, and as long as that's the focus that our sheriff's office has, is focusing on you and the people that we work with, we will be successful. If that's the type of sheriff's office you're looking for, is one that's focused on you, then I'm asking for you to vote for me, Matt McKnight, for sheriff. Thank you. I didn't need 3 minutes.
No, took 2. Dan.
So my why for running for sheriff is because I'm living at the sheriff's office now. I am currently working there, and I'm seeing where we're going down the path, and it's not where we need to be. I had 2 sheriffs before me. I had McCroskey, and then I worked most of my time with Sheriff Mansfield. Sheriff Mansfield, his thing was bad guys go to jail. Make it very difficult for them out in the public and get them in jail if they break the law. And that's kind of what I believe in. I believe that we need to be that person out there for the difference. That being said, we have to take care of our people in that office. There has been a lot of times where people doing their work on the side have been targeted because of the lack of leadership that we have. The job of the sheriff is the leader. If things go bad, we own it, we learn from it, and we make those changes. If something goes good, that deputy is the person that does the good job. Our correctional deputy does the good job. The big thing that we have right now is lack of communication and onus to what we do. Our leadership blames other people. They do not take their own the own fiascos, things like that, at heart and deal with it appropriately. Me personally, I've had issues, not gonna lie, but I've learned how to be humble through this. No matter what it is, always tell the truth, own it, move on. And the big thing for our sheriff's office is to look at what we have, build them bigger, give them the training, give them the power to do their job, and they will come out and they'll take care of the citizens. Our correctional deputies, give them the power and knowledge so they'll take care of those people in that jail. They'll keep them safe and clean and healthy, but they don't want to come back. That's what we need to do. I am very passionate when it comes to law enforcement in this community. I came here to make a difference. I've had mistakes. That being said, no matter what, it's always been, I'm out there for you guys. I'm trying to do the best thing. And that's all I can do for you. If you say, hey, we need this, I'll look at it and try to make that happen. Surround myself with people that are a team effort, because I'm a head coach for the junior cats, and that's a big thing for me is I surround myself with people that know different things, offense, defense, things like that. That's what I am. But I would be the focal point. So if the commissioner says, we have an issue with this, that's on me. I will handle that, I'll figure it out, we'll make it better. If there's something wrong, own it. If there's nothing wrong and we're doing something great, push that information out. So that is the reason why I'm running for sheriff, is because of my citizens and for my office. If I don't do this, I'm gonna go out of this life with more regrets, and I don't wanna do that.
Okay. I'm just somebody that, out of the group up here, I'm not saying I'm the best person in the world, but I am the most well-rounded in the different tasks that would be expected of the sheriff. Again, I don't know everything, but I'm willing to surround myself with those that do know better, that do complement the skill set that I have. So one of the things that I do, I hold myself accountable. And I expect that I will continue to hold not only myself accountable, but the administration that I would select. And the way I would select them is by looking at, what are their capabilities, and speaking with the line level people that see them from a different angle. Because I know that I've seen people that I may see, their expert skill set in area A, but that I find out that when I'm not around, they're treating their subordinates like garbage. We don't want that. We want everybody to treat everybody else with respect and understand that everybody has, is a benefit to the citizens and to our agency. Now, talking about holding myself accountable, I also want to hold our deputies accountable. The actions of one deputy, one sergeant, one sheriff, one whatever, can have a wonderful effect or an adverse effect on the entire agency. You have one person that does bad thing X to someone, and another citizen who doesn't know any of these people that work for the agency, all of a sudden are thinking, the Lewis County Sheriff's Office does this. This is them. This is terrible. How can we trust the Sheriff's Office? Why would I call them to my house when I have this bad thing happen? Because they are all this scum. So we need to make sure that, and it doesn't help the citizens and it doesn't help the other deputies if we allow something to happen. So we need to make sure that we're accountable at all levels. So it's just one of those, again, and I'm a terrible speaker. I mentioned that as my bad thing. So anyway, I have a lot of skills. I know that I'm not a speaker. I'm willing to work with everyone. I don't have a big ego. So thank you.
All right, I think I've talked enough, so I'll keep it short. Your safety is my priority, and I'm going to accomplish that through adequate staffing, proper infrastructure, and thorough investigations. That's one of the issues that we have is our investigations need to be timely, need to be thorough. It doesn't matter if they're current cases, cold cases, or public corruption. There is nobody that's above the law. The law and the Constitution apply equally to everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. And it's time to start leading and having somebody who is going to step up and hold people accountable for what they're doing. Over my 35 years in law enforcement, there's a lot of things that I've done, but the biggest thing that I've realized is relationships and people are the most important. And in public service, that is the most important. We value our employees, we give them the tools, training, resources, supervision, and support they need to be successful. You guys will reap the reward from that. They will be dedicated to you. They will sacrifice unsacrificially for you. And that's what we need. Priorities of life have always been victims, innocents, and then us. So we are never on the top. And so we need to have that humility for service. Lewis County doesn't need another administrator. It needs a leader. Somebody that's going to stand up and fight for what's right and for them. that's going to put criminals behind bar, but that there's also gonna be out there to be supportive to the people in the community and is gonna be engaged and be there for you. I have decided that I'm not retiring. I'm staying here. I've made that choice. With everything that's going on and the battle that's coming against me, I'm standing up and fighting because you are more important. There is rights and there is wrongs and injustices. We need somebody who's gonna fight for that. So I'm choosing you, Lewis County, and I just ask that you choose me as your next sheriff. Thank you.